I'm about to be prescribed ADD medication, first time in my life, because I decided to kind of investigate my what is obvious to me as neurotypic, uh, aneurotypical functioning of my mind. And so I've been investigating that. We got some objective data. I did some testing, and we interpret the results. And it's been such a satisfying and just eye-opening experience on a number of levels. And one of those levels is just my experience with medical doctors. You know, it has been just atrocious, man. I mean, the level of dehumanization I've experienced from medical professionals is wild. Thinking back to some of it, and just like it's like I can't believe I even let people treat me the way that some of these people have treated me.
Talk about detached, and analyzers,
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
and
exactly.
then add the lens of race on top of that. Yeah.
Yeah, with that extra level of bias, it turns into something real ugly, and it's a shame to have experienced so many of those. But this was a very pleasant experience, and I purposefully sought out a black doctor to do this work with me because I figure if you're a black doctor doing this kind of work, then there is very little chance you don't understand the history of black people and ADHD and ADD diagnoses and the fact that they're kind of left out of the neuro atypical discussion or any kind of actual diagnosis or investigation into these issues. um,
Mhm.
and so, yeah, he really took his time with me and took care with me and explained everything very carefully and clearly and went through the results with me. And um, that kind of level of care, right, was just so valuable. And I just realized, right, I probably never would have in the past sought out specifically a black doctor. I would have never done that. Okay. Why would I have never done that? Because I was told that I don't need to do something like that, right? That I could just go to the doctor. Okay, there's doctors for everyone. There's no doctors for black people and doctors for white people, right? I was told that that would be even racist for me to even think about doing such a thing. But the will of today knows that racial hierarchy impacts people even without their conscious knowledge. It impacts these doctors. They don't even know sometimes how they're being, that they're dehumanizing me. I have been through enough at this point to realize that this stuff operates with a lot of it operates unconsciously for people, and they don't even know that they are perpetuating racial hierarchy when they're doing it. So because I've gained that knowledge, it makes it easier actually for me to not vilify people, if you will, for you know sometimes saying horrific things or doing things that are awful. But it has made it easier for me to be able to just not dehumanize them back, right? And not delete their experience, which is one of ignorance. And that's also a life experience. And it's also a valid life experience. And it's one that I myself went through. And I'd never want to lose sight of that as I do this work because we have to be realistic about the human experience, about human nature. Human nature is to be in ignorance. Um, and you can only come out of ignorance if you're given the time and the space and opportunity to do so. And I think that the time and space and opportunity has been robbed of people in the race context to come out of ignorance. And so I want to give people that chance back, Ben. That's the work that I'm doing. That's the space that I'm creating here, and I think that given what we talked about in our pre-interview conference, that probably resonates with the way that you kind of feel about race as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, these conversations benefit so much from intentional context setting, uh, where we acknowledge that this is invented, and even if it would be helpful to talk about how it was invented and when. because it simplifies everything for me personally, and I think it would simplify it for other people too. And it's not a surprise to anybody. It's sometimes it's a surprise to people. Like sometimes when I tell people that race is invented and it's not an inherent property of people, they say, well, what about this feature, that like skin color, hair texture, that kind of thing? And in every case, there are always exceptions. There's always like people who have dark skin who aren't called black. And that makes some people go, oh, and then like something changes, but it's so like ingrained in them to have been carrying race as an inherent quality of a human being. So I'm assuming that's like the ignorance you're talking about. Like people are
There's
ignorant.
ignorance to go around, but that is definitely a prominent one in the race context, right? People believing it's some kind of inherent property of a human. Absolutely. That all those stereotypes are inherent, you know, the aggressive, angry black man, you know, or something like that. Yeah, that's where it
It's
leads
like,
anyway.
yeah. And then you can see like getting into this wondering, like, oh, I wonder if he's behaving that way because he's white or because he's black. And it's just even asking that question is already assuming that it's inherent and it's reinforcing it. And even inside of like anti-racist conversations, people are asking questions like that, reinforcing race as a truth and not, and then it becomes impossible to have this kind of conversation that we're having.
Yeah, I think I agree with you overall, but I have to push back slightly and just say
Sure.
that the difficulty comes in talking about it as it actually is, in the fact that, like, because it's been so many generations that we've been categorized this way and that society has been set up this way, race sometimes acts like it is an inherent thing. Like the way that it manifests is similar, very similar to the other way that things that are inherent to our being operate. It's been designed to mimic inherence, you know, and so that's what makes it hard, because even when that's what makes communication so fraught about this, right? Because sometimes people are agreeing with your point that race isn't real, right? And is completely illusory. But what they maybe were trying to talk about is the consequences of inputting these racial classification on us over all this time. What are some of the consequences of that? And some of them lie within the area of behavior. Some of those consequences lie within the area of behavior. That is just a fact. And so,
What like what's an example?
like, instead of giving you let me give you a metaphor type example, because this is going to clarify it, I think, a little bit better, which is, let's say you grow up in a desert, okay? And water is scarce and food is scarce. And as a result of that, right, you're going to learn to behave in certain ways, right? So that you can survive, for your survival instinct. You may ration your water, right? You may hide food in different areas, you know, so that you know little pockets of food exist in case you get lost or stranded or something, right? So these are actions that you would take, that if you were in an environment where food was abundant and where water was abundant, you probably wouldn't be rationing your water. You probably wouldn't be, you know, hiding food in different areas, right? Like, so all I'm saying is that your environment impacts your behavior. That is
Mhm.
just a fact of human behavior and how it operates. So when the environment has been racialized, okay, then, you know, that is going to impact your behaviors. If you're black and you're located on the bottom of that racial hierarchy, you know, so to speak, then uh, you know, you're in danger. You know, you're in a dangerous environment. You're in a hostile environment. And you may not even realize that you're in that environment right away, right? And so your behavior is going to start to be molded by the fact that people are pricking you with pins all the time. Sometimes you know why, sometimes you don't know why, right? And that is just going to influence your life experience in a way that it's going to, you're going to want to protect yourself. And protecting yourself is going to be a fraught process when you don't even understand what's happening to you. And that is typically the situation that a lot of racialized Black people find themselves in. And then how do people react to that? Well, we're all human beings and we act very similarly when we're in danger. It's pretty much all been mapped out, over the years. And in the race context, it's no different, right? We fight, we freeze, we flee, any various different ways, right? And then because racialized Black people are experiencing that high level of oppression and stress, that racialized white people are not experiencing. Well, and basically the entire environment is set up to not talk about that difference in life experience. Then that's where people's perceptions of what's going on become cloudy, right? Like, because why would you, as a racialized white person, look at a racialized Black person and think, oh, their life must be completely different than mine, when you've been told the exact opposite this whole time, that everyone's a human, everyone's the same, so it just follows, right, that everyone's experience is the same. Why would you think any differently? And now it continues with racialized Black people knowing they're not being perceived, living the life that they're actually living. So another layer is created because of that. And it's just a continuous type of thing that again transforms behavior and reinforces behaviors that are related to survival, Mm-hmm. And then what does that turn into? It connects people to those stereotypes that are already generationally associated with racial hierarchy and Blackness in this case. Black people are aggressive, right? They're fighting. Look at how much they fight. Look how angry they get. Look at this and that, right? Black people are lazy, Oh, you're shutting down. Oh, you're just doing this because you're lazy. You're sleeping in class. You're lazy. This or that, blah, 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 right? And it just, it's a reinforcing mechanism of kind of, it just reinforces itself, So breaking the cycle is going to happen when people's perceptions of reality become as reality actually is,
So survival strategies start to be labeled as like negative traits.
Yeah. And it makes sense, right? Because survival strategies could be considered kind of negative, right? Because usually it's in a situation whereby, oftentimes they are stressful, I would say, is maybe a better word. Okay. Survival situations are stressful situations. And Black people have never really, as a group, racialized Black people, right, as a group, have not really been looked upon as people deserving of compassion, as people
Mm-hmm.
deserving of empathy, of understanding. Instead, there's been this continuous suppression of our, not just our history, not just of what we've been through, but of our humanity continuing on through today, right? As they're trying to remove our stories from history, as they're trying to just do anything they can to reinforce the stereotypical hierarchy that we've all grown up under, that I think a lot of us are getting sick and tired of. Thanks for watching. For access to the full-length conversation and all of the 2-hour-long unedited conversations that I've had on race, click the support link in the description below. Thanks for your support and see you next time.